In Lesson 13, we saw how we can access certain elements within the document by using some methods of the document object. We saw the getElementsByTagName method, and we also used the getElementByID method. So let's switch gears a little bit. We are still going to be dealing with the document object model, but instead of retrieving elements, we're actually going to create elements. And we actually have two different ways of how we can create elements. We can use the methods defined by the document object model, or we can use a property that was invented by Microsoft, but every browser supports it, and it's called the inner HTML property. We're going to jump straight into the try it section. So here I have the basic HTML here. We just have an empty document. All we have within the body is a script element, and we are going to write a little web page that we will use for a shopping list, and we will generate this shopping list through nothing but JavaScript. Over the course of doing the try it, though, we are going to discuss some of the alternatives and look at some of the methods that we covered within the text of Lesson 14 but didn't really cover within the try it section. So the first thing we need is a list of items to purchase at the store. And so I have added that here with this shopping list array. It has 5 elements: eggs, milk, juice, diaper, and bread. And what we want to do is we want to create a UL element. And for each of these elements within the array, we want to create a LI element, a list item. So we are going to use a for loop. Our counter is going to be initialized as variable I with a value of 0, and we want this loop to run as long as I is less than the length of shopping list. And shopping list is 5 elements long, so we will start with 0, and then 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, and then on the 5th iteration, I is going to be 5. I will not be less than the length of the array, and so the loop will exit. And then we specify the counter here to increment. Okay, so we have the loop to generate or at least to loop through our shopping list here. So let's create a UL element. We are going to do that. We are going to create a variable called UL, and then we are going to call the create element method of the document object, and we are going to pass UL. So this will create a UL element for us. So now we need to create the LI elements to contain our shopping list. So we can do that in quite a few different ways. The first way is to create an LI object. We could call document create element and then pass LI so that we have created an LI element. And then we could do append child and then document create text node, and then pass in the text of each element within the array. Now, that's quite a bit of code, because even then we have to do UL, append child, and then LI. We could actually do this with a lot less code. Instead of creating an element using the document object model methods, we could use a property called inner HTML that was created by Microsoft, but it's used within every browser. So we can use ul.innerHTML equals. Now, whenever we use inner HTML, we actually want to specify inner HTML again, because if we just did something like this, li, if we concatenate the text, and then if we close this tag, then what we have essentially done is overwritten everything within the HTML of the UL element, so we wouldn't have our list. We would actually just end up with bread. So we need to do ul.innerHTML and then concatenate that with the shopping list item. Now, there is an actual better way to do this. And we can, or let's copy this so that we can actually compare the two. I have used this type of syntax throughout the book, and it's primarily because it's very clear as to what we are doing here. We are using, or we are assigning inner HTML the current value of inner HTML plus whatever we are adding here. Now we could actually shorten this by using a plus equal sign. And this is the same thing as calling this, except we don't have to specify ul.innerHTML again. Using this plus equal does that for us. So if you feel comfortable doing it this way, feel free to. I'm going to continue doing it this way just because it's very clear as to what we are doing. Okay, so we have the HTML added to our UL element. So the only thing that we need to do now is add it to our page. And we do that by using the document object. It has a property called body. This is another HTML element object. And then we can call the append child method and pass UL. So if we were to open this in our browser, which I already have open, we are going to see that we are generating an unordered list with eggs, milk, juice, diapers, and bread. Now, of course, if we looked at the source of this, we're not going to see the actual HTML because we generated this all through JavaScript. But nonetheless, we have this list for us. Now, this actually finishes the try it section, but I want to go over another method that we can use to add attributes to an element, and we are going to add an attribute to this UL element, and we can do that using the UL object and then using the set attribute method, and we supply it a name. We're going to put type, and then we supply a value. Let's put square. So we are adding a attribute called type, and we are giving it a value of square. So if we reload this, we should see squares over here as we are seeing now. So we can use set attribute to set attributes on an element, but there are some attributes that we can set through JavaScript code. We could do ID. ID is an actual property of the HTML element objects, so we don't have to use set attribute for that. We can also set the CSS class with the class name, and we are going to look at that within a few lessons. And there's also a style object that maps to the style attribute. So anyway, that's how we can create and add HTML to our web page. And as the lessons keep going, we are going to look at how we can modify HTML some more.